What's going on YouTube? So of course, as you probably know, the Santa Fe has long been a staple of the Hyundai lineup, and it continues to be a very important product to them. Coming off a major refresh last year, this 2022 example might just set the benchmark for style, performance, and value, plus you even get a few extra features this year. So should you buy one of these over the competition? Let's go ahead and find out. So all the recent Hyundai products have really been adopting bold designs, and when this was heavily refreshed just last year, the Santa Fe did also get a bold design. So let's start up here in the front. As you can see, we continue to have that enhanced grille, which is quite a bit larger than it was before. You've got a couple different finishes. This is the most common, the chrome finish, but you can also get a dark finish on the calligraphy and a black finish on your base model. And then down here at the bottom, you always have this nice chunky silver accent, which I think adds a nice premium touch. Now, one of the most eye-catching elements though have to be this headlight unit. So we now have this double cluster here with this daytime running light that runs down and then through into the second cluster. And then this is actually where your headlights live. So you're gonna have standard full LED headlights. They're gonna be reflector beam on the SE and SEL, projector beam on your limited and calligraphy trim levels, and then this right here is your turn signal. Moving next to the wheels, we have a very interesting design going on here. These are 18-inch contrast alloys. This is going to be included on your SE and your SEL trim levels. Going for the limited will bump you up an inch, which also has an interesting design, and then the calligraphy has the craziest design, and that is going to come in at 20 inches. And then as we move on up here to your mirrors, Hyundai is going to throw in heating and blind spot monitoring on all but the very base trim level. And then if you choose the limited and above, that's going to get you power folding.
So here at the side, nothing has really changed for 2022, but I do want to mention that if you get at least the SEL trim or higher, you will get these nice silver accents that really help to class up the design, as well as the silver roof rails. Now, as far as the rear design is concerned, once again, nothing has changed this year in terms of the design. Of course, it was just refreshed last year, so you wouldn't expect any changes. So that means you're gonna have the signature Santa Fe look that I'm quite a big fan of. It has a very classy and elegant look. These taillights were new last year, and they connect to each other, so they go all the way across the back. And they are gonna be incandescent on the lower end models. If you go for at least a limited, that will throw in the LED components though. And then if we drop down to this rear area, you'll find your turn signal in this part right here, and then you're also going to find the silver accent with the exposed exhaust pipe here on the right side. Now, the Santa Fe doesn't really mess around with the safety systems because you're going to have the entire suite as standard equipment on every single trim level, even the very base ones. So that's going to be your forward emergency braking, auto high beams, adaptive cruise control, and lane keeping assist. Additionally, if you go for the limited or calligraphy trims, that will throw in Hyundai's pretty cool smart parking system. But that's going to be all for the exterior design of the Santa Fe. As you can see, it's a very classy and cool exterior. I love the paint color. Now let's go ahead and check out the inside before we take it on a spin. Before we do all of that, please hit that subscribe button down below. It truly helps us out, and it doesn't cost you anything.
So walking up to the 2022 Santa Fe, you will find their intelligent entry system, as well as remote start integrated onto the key fob on all but the base model. Additionally, you can unlock the vehicle via a NFC key card or an Android smartphone if you get the digital key system on the limited trim level or above. And then to get inside the vehicle itself, you're just going to press the black button to unlock. Alright, so as far as the cabin is concerned, you're going to see all of those same updates from that major 2021 refresh that this just had. So all that is going to carry over for 2022 as well. But now let's go ahead and talk about your different color and material options. So your SE and SEL, they're going to come standard with cloth seating. The limited or optional on the SEL with convenience package is going to be leather seating. And then the calligraphy will come with high-end Napa leather with special quilting. And then as far as your color options on those, most of those trim levels are going to have the choices between black, gray, or beige. Now moving over here to your door trim, even though this is a lower model, you're still going to find a nice leather material all through here with the stitching detail. We do have a faux carbon fiber accent along there, and it is padded on the top. As far as our windows, they're going to be one-touch auto up and down for the driver and the passenger only. And then moving down here to your seats, you've got a few different arrangements. So you're going to have a manual seat on the base model. This is an 8-way power adjusting seat with this SEL. And then if you choose the limited or above, that's going to add 4-way lumbar and a power thigh extension. And then taking a look here at the seat, we do have the cloth seat, as you can tell. I'm actually a fan of this seat. Very soft fabric that they've decided to use, and a lot of different textures and contrasts to really visually spice things up. Now, ever since this generation first debuted, we have praised the interior material quality, and that does carry on even for this lower trim model. So the extreme upper parts of this dashboard will be a hard touch plastic. However, all of this lower area all through here is going to be finished in a leatherette material, even on this lower trim model. We do have a stitching detail as well. As we move down, you've got some soft and hard touch materials through here. This, I believe, would be padded on your higher end models. And then, of course, all through this metal here, we have this faux carbon fiber trim, which looks very nice and reminds me a lot of the Palisade. Now start up, put your foot on the brake, and press the standard button. So taking a look first here at our gauges, this of course is the more basic configuration, which is mostly analog, and then we have the 4.2-inch multifunction display right there in the middle. Of course, that contains all the expected information, but if you choose the limited or above, that's going to throw in the full 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster that you've seen on some of the other Hyundai products. Definitely a very nice system. Inside of that, you'll have the special blind view camera system as well, and then the top-end calligraphy will throw in a head-up display. Now moving back to the steering, of course we have electric power assisted steering paired with a regular steering wheel on this model. It will be leather wrapped if you have leather seats. And as far as the wheel itself, it's going to be manual tilt and telescoping. The limited or above will throw in heating. But let's go ahead and look at interior storage, because this to me is one of the biggest areas that the Santa Fe stands out, because there's a ton of storage in here. So we'll start out under our center console here. Taking a look at this, nicely sized, we do have a removable bin which we can take out and toss to the side there. And when you look inside this, very deep, does have a felt lining down at the bottom. And let's put it to the test. Got our really thick stack of coupons, it's getting thicker by the day. Fits in there no problem whatsoever. Actually, we can probably keep the little storage shelf on the top as well. Now, as we move on up to this dashboard, which was redesigned last year, you'll notice we do have a wireless phone charging pad on this standard SEL. That's actually new for 2022. Previously you had to get at least the convenience package, but we do have the wireless phone charging pad, which you can just slide your phone in like that and it kind of locks into place. Definitely a cool touch. Got a single cup holder there, another cup holder right underneath that lid, USB port right there. And we're not done yet. We have a gigantic center pass-through, actually a ton of space down here, some more connections as well. And furthermore, even on this side, we have a giant storage shelf. So this really is a lot of storage for a vehicle in this size category, and especially at this price point as well. Now let's go ahead and take a look next at our shifter. This of course changed to a full electronic shifter last year during that refresh. And operation is the same as in other Hyundai products. You're just going to press down on the D for drive, of course. You do have paddle shifters up here on the steering wheel as well. Press on the R for reverse. And when you do, you will be greeted with this standard backup camera. As you can see, we do have active trajectory on board. And if you want front and rear parking sensors as well as a 360-degree camera system, that's going to require going up one more trim level to the limited. Then for park, just press the P. You do have an electronic parking brake located on the other side of the steering wheel. And over here to the side, you'll notice some buttons here for your drive modes, as well as your all-wheel drive system. And then down below here, we do have 3-stage heated seats. Those are going to be standard on all but the base model. And then 3-stage ventilated seats will start on the limited trim. And then moving on up the panel again, we come to our climate controls. Of course, we do have physical controls located all throughout this area here. This is going to be a manual climate control set up on your lower 2 trim levels. You have dual zone automatic on your limited and above, optional with the convenience package on the SEL. But of course, this is super simple to use as far as these are concerned. And then we'll move up again to our audio system. So this is a lower end model. We're going to have the standard audio system. Of course, you also have an available 630 watt 12 speaker Harman Kardon sound system, optional on SEL convenience and above. We'll go ahead and take a listen to this standard system. So overall sound quality is certainly acceptable for this lower trim model, and I definitely appreciate that even this model throws in those really cool textured speaker grills. Okay, so now let's take our attention to the infotainment system, because I feel like this is an area that a lot of people are going to be concerned about. Just like last year, we have an interesting thing going on, and that's basically the fact that you have difference in features depending on the screen size that you choose. So this is the standard 8-inch display. This is going to be included on your lower end models, and then the limited and above will come with the larger 10.25-inch display. Also, you can get that on the SEL. Now, if you choose to have the smaller display, that's actually going to include wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay. So that's what I have running right now. You can see my phone is not actually connected, and this is the Android Auto ecosystem. If you choose the larger display, that's actually not going to include this feature. Instead, you'll have integrated navigation with wired Android Auto and wired Apple CarPlay. So that's something to keep in mind if you actually may prefer to have that set up with the smaller display. Now moving on above that, we've got manual dimming mirror on this particular model. It would be auto dimming with home link on the limited and above. And then we also don't have a moonroof. This is something that is optional on the SEL and again standard on the limited and the calligraphy.
Now, the Santa Fe's rear seat has always been a great place to spend time. That does continue for 2022. So we're looking at 42 inches of rear legroom, 39 inches of rear headroom, which does best the vast majority of the segment. That does place it right on par with that of the Kia Sorento. So overall, just a lot of space, and you can also slide the seats as well as recline them. Behind your seating position, though, I would say I have a solid 7 to 8 inches of rear legroom, and my feet can slide up underneath the seat, so very, very comfortable for anyone here in the second row. Now, as far as the features you're going to get, every Santa Fe is going to come standard with rear vents. I think that's a pretty nice touch. Then if we drop down below that, we're also going to have 2 charging USB ports, also standard equipment. If you go for the limited trim or higher, you would also have standard heated seats as well as rear window sunshades. Now walking up to the tailgate, since this is a lower end Santa Fe, we just have a manually opening one. It is hands-free power on the limited trims and above, or you can also option it on to this trim level. And as far as the space is, we have 36 cubic feet of space behind the second row seats. That goes up to 72 cubic feet if you fold them down. Competitive wise, that is at the upper end of the segment. That does best the Nissan Murano. It's right on par with that of the Kia Sorento, and the one thing I do want to mention as compared to that sibling is that the Santa Fe, of course, does not have a third row. Now, as far as what they've done to finish it back here, we have a 12-volt outlet here on the right side. We also have a cargo cover on this model, and if we lift up the floor, we do have quite a bit of underfloor storage here on the left side. If you opted for a higher end model, you would have a power passenger seat. And if we open up the glove box, this is a very good sized glove box. It's definitely wide enough to fit our coupons, and it's also deep enough. So very pleasantly surprised by that. And we also have this little storage tray up above that, which is surprisingly deep. And then if we open up the sun visor, we have a large mirror as well as some lighting, and we can detach and extend it.
All right, and there was our acceleration up to about 60 miles per hour. Of course, we are going up a pretty steep grade.
Yeah.
But, power is pretty adequate for what you expect for this category of vehicle. So, obviously, since, as we discussed, we have the SEL today, that does mean we're going to have the basic engine. So this is what most people will actually choose. It's the 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. It's making 181 horsepower, 191 pound-feet of torque, and it's
Reverse.
offset.
Reverse.
191, 181. Sorry. But anyways, that's just a little under 200 horsepower. So that is plenty of power for this type of vehicle, and that does help this vehicle to achieve the price point that it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if that's not enough power for you, I'm really, really pleased to say that Hyundai does offer the turbo engine in this. We love the turbo engine. It's a 2.5 liter turbo 4 that's have 277 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque, which is certainly good enough to get you up to speed really quick in the Santa Fe. We actually tested that out about 6 months ago, and it's a fantastic engine. So if you really care about the power, get that one, but otherwise this is totally fine. But just cruising along here at highway speed, I think this is really where the Santa Fe shines, is just how comfortable it is and how luxurious it feels, really. Just cruising along, it soaks up the bumps, and I'm just noticing how quiet it feels. It really feels super quiet in here. I'm also very comfortable, and as we'll see as we head over this bridge abutment here, it really just handles it well. And our sound sample going 55 miles an hour is sitting at 55.1 decibels. Very solid reading for that.
Yeah, power is definitely adequate. Now let's talk about the transmission. This is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Some of the rivals, are using CVTs, stuff like that. So this is definitely a positive point. I definitely find this to be a nice and responsive transmission as well, and really smooth shifts. So I don't really have anything to complain about. And then of course you do have standard front wheel drive with this model, and optional all-wheel drive.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that if you go for the turbo model, you're going to have the 8-speed dual clutch transmission. So that's another differentiator between the two engine and powertrain options, is that. Once again, this is probably going to be a smoother transmission for the average everyday owner that doesn't really care about performance. So that's something worth considering, because the dual clutch is a little bit rougher around the edges when you're driving city driving, but of course it does give you more performance, so kind of trade-off. Now there is also a hybrid and plug-in hybrid that will be offered. Not talking about that in this video. We will be doing separate reviews for that.
Right, hopefully we'll be able to sample some of that coming up shortly.
Now, let's go ahead and talk about the fuel economy. So this one, as equipped, the 2.5 liter base engine with all-wheel drive is going to be coming in at 22, 25, 24 combined. If you opt for front drive, it's going to be 26 combined. And if you go for the turbo engine, surprisingly, that's actually not going to cost you any more at the pump. It really is rated nearly identical numbers for the turbo engine. And drum roll, you know what time it is. It's airball and slam dunk time. For today, we struggled a little bit to come up with an airball. There's a lot to like with this Santa Fe. One of the things that we pinpointed, though, that might be a cause of concern for some of you all is just the controversial styling. When you compare this to some other options, I think this is very bold, and especially with the new wheel designs and the T-shaped daytime running lights, this stands out. I quite like it, but for some of you all, you might be more conservative and not want so much standoutness.
Right. And then on the slam dunk side of things, this one is pretty obvious. It's the value that this packs in. That's what really has made the Santa Fe successful after all these years, is essentially you get a bigger size vehicle and you get more features than vehicles that are a class below. A lot of people cross-shop this instead of with things like the Blazer and the Ford Edge and the Nissan Murano. A lot of times people are going to cross-shop this with the RAV4, the Rogue, the CR-V, because you can get one of these at that price point. And with that being said, Mason can go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, so this starts at $28,025 for the SE. SEL is $29,825, limited at $39,775, and calligraphy $43,275. And then this one, as equipped, is coming in a little over $32,000. So this one really does represent that very cross-shop nature between this and something like a RAV4, because really you can only, I mean, you're looking at probably like an XLE all-wheel drive RAV4 at $32,000. So there, you know, it's a question to ask yourself: should you be looking at this instead of something in that segment?
Yeah, so overall, the 2022 Santa Fe remains a really great crossover. It's just a fantastic overall type of vehicle. You know, you have that value, you have that good price point, you have plenty of equipment, plenty of luxury, plenty of tech. You know, it's really a strong offering, and it's definitely something that I feel like a lot of people should look at because it could meet the needs of a really wide variety of people.
Yeah. Well, guys, we appreciate you watching this in-depth review of the 2022 Hyundai Santa Fe SEL. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, please be sure to help us out by hitting that subscribe button down below. It's completely free to you, and all it's going to do is give you notifications, or, you know, just pop in your subscription feeds when we make a new video, and you won't want to miss out on our new content. So please go ahead and do that if you're interested in cars at all. Anyway, we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.